to ask questions about your organization eligibility. And then most of the information I'll share with you are on the website, so you can relate to them when you are surfing the website. So we'll do two parts, and then after that, we'll go through the concept note templates for you to be familiar with it, the different sections. Today, we'll do some quick overview of the different sections from the developing your project goals, objectives, the log frame, the budget, and the ESMS section for those of you that have gone through the template. And then next week, for those of you that are finding some of these terms very new, next week we will go into some detail of, for example, what is a logical framework. We will have some resource people just to come and talk about the intention of a logical framework before you go into filling the form. Same for the budget. Today we'll go over the templates, and then we'll have our finance team go through each of the sections, and you can be a lot of Q&A next week in detail for the budget. We hope that from next week we'll decide whether we want to do specific sessions on the different topics, whether the following week we'll just deal with budget. So we'll need to get some of your input in some specific areas. So with that, thank you again, and good morning. We'll go straight into the session this morning. I know due to COVID, we are all stuck at home, and it seems like it's Zoom all day long, especially here in Suba where we are on lockdown. If I may, Amelia, I'll go straight into the PowerPoint presentation.
Go ahead, Tika.
Okay. So hope you. Let me do something. Yeah. Sorry. Can I just check whether the screen is coming okay or not? Maybe not. How's that?
All good, Tika.
So, for the session this morning, I'll just revisit the grant call for you to just to remind us on the important dates. Look at the eligibility of organization, and you can just chat in any questions, and Amelia will be looking at those questions, and we can take it from there to answer questions and look at what projects can be funded again and what cannot be funded. And then we go through the concept note detail. So with that, just a reminder again on the call. So it was opened on Tuesday for all of those grants. The medium grants will be closed August 31st, 11:59 Fiji time. And the very small and small will close the following month, which is September 30th. In terms of, so those are the closing dates. So after you submit your concept note, you're looking at November to hear back from IUCN on the outcome of your concepts, and for medium grant in October. Just some other important dates there in terms of back and forth with IUCN on your questions. The questions for medium grants will close on August 25 and September 24, a couple of days before you do your submission for small grant. So keep in mind, but I'm pretty sure a lot of your questions can come during these Thursday sessions. Let me go through this table again. It is on the website. Just for you to be, when you go through the website again, you will see the one that I've highlighted in red is a must for everybody applying. That means the grantee, for number one, must be a legal entity registered in one of the 19 countries or territories. We covered that this grant will cover 16 countries outside the French overseas territories and 3 of the French overseas territories. So you must be a legal entity. Well, IUCN cannot apply for number 2. Lead applicant must hold a bank account in the name of the organization. Lead applicant must be directly responsible for implementing the funded project. For number 4, what it means is that IUCN will have a contract with you in terms of being responsible to implement the project. Grant is currently funded by EU, can apply to the call for local projects of the Kiwa. It's open that if you already have a funded EU project running, it cannot be considered as co-funding to a local project by Kiwa Initiative. So as long as it's not the importance of making a very good distinction that you are asking for a very different set of activities. So it cannot co-fund it. International NGOs, the project must be endorsed by government authority in the country of implementation. There's a miss number 2 there. And the project must be implemented in partnership with the local organization CSOs. So for those international NGOs, as long as you have a endorsement from your government, because the grant is funded targeting the PIC countries, it really needs the government buy-in. So the endorsement can be in writing, letter or email, and there's some details there. And your partner, local partner organization. Local partners must be directly involved in implementing the project activities. It could include you sub-granting them. Application from international NGOs without a local partner will only be considered if you provide a clear justification, such as absence of appropriate local partners. Now, in some countries in our region, they have very little presence of NGOs, especially conservation NGOs, like Nauru, the smaller countries. So the intention of the grant is that they could be supported. For public institution or government, so all the 19 countries, the government can access the grant, just like any of the NGOs. And co-applicants are subject to same eligibility criteria as the lead applicant. This is if you are doing not sub-grant, but you are submitting a joint application with a co-applicant. I hope you can go to when you're going through the website, that is what's sitting in the website for you to familiarize with you on the eligibility of organizations. For different types of projects, this is slide. Well, must be implemented in one of the eligible PI's countries, aligned with the Kiwa objectives. The application of MBS to climate change, we covered that during the awareness. The project doesn't really want us to fund a research project, but as long as the research have tangible on the ground actions. And then the ESMS, which we will cover later this morning. And that the usual check on how realistic, achievable, and cost efficient your proposal. And of course, the international requirement from the donors that it is not in accordance with this global requirement, anti-money laundering and financing terrorism. And those are the list of things that you cannot ask: purchasing land, illegal activities, resettlement of people, activities that negatively impact physical, cultural priorities, activities on indigenous people's land or territories without having obtained their free prior informed consent, activities that include the procurement or use of unlawful pesticides, activities that negatively impact vulnerable groups, and activities implemented with communities where there has been no prior consultation. So as you can see, there's quite an emphasis that your concept meets the ESMS in terms of engagement with your target group. So with that, I wonder, Amelia, do we want to take some questions or any questions that are coming from those slides before we go to the concept detail?
Thank you, Tika. So we have one question from Miss Christina Shaw. So she needs clarification. If a local NGO is the lead applicant, can they work with private sector entities to deliver the outcomes, such as tourism business or dive businesses?
The answer is yes, as long as they are not making any profit.
Yeah.
So yes, definitely the partnership like that is quite important, especially in nature-based solution. Yeah, as long as the fund is not being used for any of the business.
And I think, yeah, sorry, Tika.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so Tika, that's probably another common question that has been coming in. Maybe we can just clarify this. A common question is if there's a local NGO that would like to apply for the grant but do not have probably enough information to go through the screening questions or the ESMS or the due diligence process form, are they able to get assistance or partner with an overseas-based NGO to deliver the activities on the ground locally?
The answer is yes. In the table that is sitting there on the international NGOs, the key issue there is the endorsement from the government from where the project will be implemented. So that's why we have that caveat. The government will have to agree that this international NGO can be funded, because the final beneficiaries are the countries, those 19 PICT countries, and the donors have given the fund, and they just want to make sure that whichever international NGO that is applying the government have agreed to it, because at the end of the day, the government can question the donors and IUCN. Hope that clarifies. As long as those endorsements, so they need to work closely with the government. So it also stops the risk from just any international NGO that haven't done any work in the region applying. And yeah, I think that's a short answer. It's yes, but make sure the discussion and endorsements are done by the government. Okay. Should we move, Amelia?
Yes, I think probably just before we start with the main part of our workshop today, can I just ask if the participants can just attempt a poll? Very simple yes or no question. If you have prepared a concept note for a project grants before. So if you can just have an idea of how many have prepared a concept note before or not. And then at the end of this session, we will also be putting out another poll just to gauge how much of an understanding you have received from this presentation. Is that all right, Etika?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Thank you. So you can attempt the polls now. Thank you. Set Etika.
So we continue?
Yes, you can continue.
Okay. I'm just trying to get. Okay. Thank you, Amelia. Let me take us through the logical framework. If I may just say that the concept note is the intention is so you don't have to basically get your general ideas of what you want to do, and then at the proposal phase, and then you can really dive in and give us the details. So this process is to give us an opportunity to get your general idea of your concept or the proposal, immaterial of the size of the grant. So in terms of organization, that's quite straightforward. We've included social media. As you know, it's getting harder and harder due to COVID. to track people down. Seems like social media seems to be the easiest way to connect. Is your organization legally registered? At this point, just say yes and no. If yes, for how many years? And then there was a lot of question on audited report. At this stage, you just say that whether you have it or not, and for how many years have you done audit reports? If no, just explain what type of financial reporting that you're currently doing. So that is for your organization. And we've requested that if you can put in 2 contact persons. This is just as a second option in case we're trying to contact you at some of our NGOs that are based in rural areas. You can put a second contact person. Maybe those that of your partners that could relay the message to you. And then we're asking if you could list some of your past and current projects already running, just the title, summary of its activities and objectives or goals, the month it started, when it ended or when it's going to end, the donors, and your estimated. We are requesting that we all use euros because this is the donor funding. The funds are all in euros. So a list of past and current projects, pretty straightforward. And you'll see in the form for you to list your project title, the country or territory for the French territories. So project title, country, so the project site or theme. Some of your project may not have the, it's not a site-based project. So you can just explain a bit about the project that you want to be, that explain or elaborate a bit about the project title. And then in terms of the budget or total fund you're requesting, on the far right, I've put some figures. So if it's within that range, that's the grant range you are fitting yours. It's very small and medium grant. I think that's pretty straightforward. And then if you could fill the intended start date and end date, the project duration in terms of months, and the geographic area. Like I mentioned, the geographic area, some may be site, some may be theme. For example, you're doing ecotourism. You may have to just give us some ideas of the target area you're doing your nature-based solution and climate adaptation. And list the main threats and vulnerabilities of the project. This one is quite important, is that you, as we've been talking during the awareness, try and identify what other climatic challenges that the project is going to address, the impacts, the risks, the effect of climate change. I think we covered things like, is it a disaster? So those will be, even though some of your threats may be human induced, at this stage, we are quite interested in the climate. You can add the the human-induced threats that you're also addressing. But be quite clear on the climate change threats. And then this section is, we just want you to do a narrative, tell the story of what you're doing, your goal and your objectives. So to kind of summarize the narrative, for those of you that have experience in writing these things, concept, usually this is the last bit you write after you are very clear of your project, and you come back and do your summary. Yeah, so that's a narrative section. Let's try to fix this thing. Okay. So relevance to Kiwa, the project, as mentioned, is really how you're going to contribute to nature-based solution and climate adaptation, and how your project will employ nature-based solution to achieve climate adaptation. What we hope to do is that we'll start putting up links in our website where you can go in and access, have a read of what is nature-based solution. There's a lot of resources IUCN have put out and other organizations that you can look into just for improved understanding of the nature-based solution and climate adaptation. The other bit is that the benefits, that it is balanced, right-based, that is addressing across the society. And will the project be implemented with partners, with a partnership? So this is the one where you actually have a implementation partner that, for example, we mentioned that international NGOs can have a sub-grant to a partner organization, or I think there is the co-applicants. And then project stakeholders are those that you're going to implement the project. The earlier question that was posed, can private sector be a project stakeholder? So they will become a project stakeholder. They are not, they might be receiving some funds, but it's for your project. The difference here is partnership. You will have to have a contract with your partner. The stakeholders are those that are implementing the project with you. Most of you that have done projects, your stakeholders are usually the government, the line ministries that work with you, be it on coastal fisheries, so the Ministry of Fisheries will be one of your stakeholders. So they are not financial partners, but stakeholders for implementation. And then how has the project design been informed by APPLICANT? Now, at this point, we do understand that you may have not done any consultation yet, but explain here where you're at in terms of how you're going to do the consultation if you haven't, or at what stage you are at. At the lower boxes, you'll be able to tick. We fully understand that you may be producing a concept that haven't done the engagement is one of the particular activities. But we really encourage you to please look at these 5. If once your ideas are clearing up, try and contact those target communities that they have been informed that you are designing this project and that they will be part of. Okay, also below that, you will see there's a risk. It's very simple. We'll just ask for 2. So think about a risk that you think that will affect your implementation. For example, a risk is the COVID restriction for climate, for you traveling, for example, to the islands. For example, in Fiji, everything is closed. You can't reach your target community. So this is where you list those type of things. If you have more risks, at this stage, just state it, rate it. Is it low, medium, high risk? And explain how you are going to mitigate those risks. And there is a small box at the bottom there on sustainability and replicability. So if you could just explain a bit how you see your project, is it going to reach the rest of the province, or is it going to be scaled up at national level, and the sustainability of your particular project? We'll keep going. Not sure whether this slide is sitting in the right place. Trying to see where the slide is. My apologies. My logical framework. Sorry, I jumped one slide there. So after the relevance, then you will see the logical framework. Now we do fully understand that everybody uses different terms that you may, your organization uses. So try and align the terms. If you're used to output, for example, just explain a bit that that's what you mean. It's you like output and you're not using deliverables. So that's just the logical framework. As I mentioned, for this logical framework, we will have a specific session next week to get a little bit of theory of the importance of logical framework and how it should have its logical links. But in terms of the table, it's just for you to put the project goal at the top, the objectives on the left-hand side, and then tie it across. So for every objective, you will have a list of deliverables, which is deliverable 1.1, deliverable 1.2, and the indicators for each of those deliverables. Then you list the activities that you are going to implement to achieve the deliverables, and also the deliverables that will achieve the objective. I won't dwell too much on this. For those that haven't done it, so don't worry, we will have, so next week we will just spend time. I hope you can do some attempts if you're working on your logical framework, and then come back next week. We will have a bit more interactive time if you are struggling in some of the sections. So if you look at the current template, it's asking you for the number of objectives you are going to address in your concept, the number of deliverables and activities. And then right in the left hand is the due dates of those activities. Remember, this is indicative. You haven't, when you do your full proposal, then you will go into the full detail. So it's for you to be able to present that this is the high level activities when you do your excuse me, your full proposal, you will get a chance to dive into more details. So that's the logical framework, and just ensuring that when your logical framework get assessed, it will just check how are they linking. You know, is this activity aligned with the objective? So those are the type of checks that will be checked on the logical framework. Yeah, I covered the risk, so you will see that shows below the logical framework. Keep on moving. Amelia, can I just check whether Semis is in or not? I know, and Seru.
Yeah, he's still not in yet.
Okay, and is Meme in? Mere?
No, not Mary. Not Mary. So Mary is not in as well.
Okay, if you just say she's trying to get in, if you have her email to join us. But for the budget, you will see two tables. One is the funding request or the value of funds requested from Kiwa. So you put down how much you really asking Kiwa. If you do have counterpart funding, then you put it on that column. If some counterpart funding will contribute to your total budget, and in-kind contribution. For in-kind contribution, please remember it's optional. You don't need to mention. It's not a requirement for Kiwa that you come up with in-kind contribution or co-financing. And that then you total up. So this is just a summary of how much you're asking from the Kiwa initiative, how much that is already secured in terms of counterpart funding, and then if any in-kind contribution, then you total it up as your total budget. And then at this stage, just really the core totals of the categories of your budget, no details. So do an estimation of how much salaries you're going to include. For example, once at the top, you will say, I'm asking for, let's just say 60,000 for small. So this is where you break it down. We're going to spend X number of euros for salaries, for consultants. There have been questions whether some consultants, if you have consultants that you already, the partnership questions that have been coming about from the international consultants or regional consultants. This is where you just indicate, don't have to just do a budget estimation of how much you think you're going to do professional services. Then your meeting costs, your travel. I think travel includes accommodation, and then communication, which includes, are you producing any communication materials, videos, community awareness materials? Are you purchasing any equipment, be it laptops for the project? And then the office cost. Office cost will be your rents, your internet, electricity, and consumables. Could include your office supplies. And then miscellaneous. Miscellaneous, usually we would give you a percentage. We may have to get back to you on what miscellaneous, how much you can percentage. And then the management fee is the 10% of your subtotal after all of those categories above. Then you calculate the 10% for your management fee. The reason for 10% is because that's what the donor is approving. Management fee have to be 10%. And then after that, you put in your subgrant, which you may have filled at the table above, and that gives you your total. If Meme is in, if not, there will be the two sessions that we will visit next week is the logical framework and budget. So please go over this table that is sitting in the concept proposal and come with some questions next week if this is not clear, or where do I put this, or where will I include a particular budget item. As mentioned earlier, the budget is just your estimation of what you are asking. If you are invited for your full proposal, then you're going to put in all the details of how things are calculated. For example, number of meetings. At this stage, you can say, I'm going to have 10 meetings in the village, it will cost 2,000. So put in as much detail. But as I said, it's just a breakdown of the total you are asking. Can I pause there with the logical framework and budget? Amelia?
Yes. We have some questions. It'll be good to have hear directly from the participants.
Yeah.
Is that okay, Tika? So if you can just raise your hand and I will unmute you, please. If you can wait until I unmute you, then you speak up so we can give an opportunity to everyone to
say your name and your organization.
Your name and your organization. So I have Seni Lolia with her hand raised. So
hi, good morning, everyone. So I'm Seni Lolia Tuawa. I'm with Conservation International, the Fiji program. IUCN and us neighbors along 3 Mapu Street. I just had a question with Etika, Morning Etika, on the current slide that he has. I was just wondering whether there's room for contingency, if that's covered under, or if that's already covered, but it's maybe under some titles the category.
Contingency is your miscellaneous.
Oh, okay. Does it have a percentage?
Yeah, that's what I just mentioned. We will give you a percentage.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Stefano, you can ask your question.
Andra Vinaka, everybody. Stefano Katz with the Pacific Blue Foundation. Question about the budget, the second table. Are there other restrictions or limits and percentages to all the other categories besides the management fee and what you suggested about the miscellaneous? And another question would be, what are the differences between the stated management fee, which has a maximum of 10%, and then below the table, it suggests that there's maximum 10% on overhead costs, and then a maximum of 10% on administrative overhead costs. Is there a difference between these 3 categories? And so what it is? What is it?
You see, thank you, Stefan. Good morning. The management fee, yes, if to be honest, I can't see which one you're referring to.
Sorry, underneath the table, the second table,
there's
a statement there which says elements of consultation, professional fees, etc. That's a 10% overhead cost, which is the max. But then the last part of the paragraph suggests that there's a maximum administrative overhead cost. So just using interchangeable definitions, my question is, are these the same, or do they have different meanings?
Okay, it's that slide there. Am I right?
Yep.
Okay, so that's a note. You may, for example, different people pull their costs separately, whether they're calling it administration or overhead cost, that's the maximum, or the management fee. So it's the same thing of the total.
And that is different from management fee?
No, it's the same thing.
I understand. Okay, thank you. And my first question was, are there any other limits for any other of the categories on the budget?
The Kiwa is not giving you any thresholds of, for example, or your staff cost can go as far as 20% of total budget. No, we don't. We're not giving you those. It really will be your call in terms of and how you're going to justify it. So the answer to the question is there is no percentage guide. Any other questions there, Amelia, on the budget? Or
we have Christina Shaw. You can unmute yourself and ask your question, please.
Morning, everybody. Morning, Atika, Amelia. I'm Christina Shaw from the Vanuatu Environmental Science Society. My question is there a limit on the number of concept notes that you can submit? We work in a number of different areas and we're not sure which one would be most suitable. So can we submit multiple concept notes? And one other question as well is we're talking to some people about being involved in a regional grant, which is separate from these local grants. And if we're part of a regional grant, are we still eligible to be able to apply for these local smaller projects?
Okay, let me try and answer the easy one, which is the regional grant. In the table that I went through on eligibility, it says right at the top that this is if, for example, the number 5, grant currently funded by EU can apply to the call. So if you're already part of, for example, in this Kiwa initiative, in the regional component, according to this, yes, you can apply. Does that answer that bit of the question?
That answers the second part of the question.
The second, yeah.
The first part of the question.
Interesting one.
Sorry.
Multiple.
Yeah, can we put in more than one concept note?
Yeah, I think it'd be quite interesting if you attempt it to work with you if there is good rationale of doing multiple. I guess the challenge is how you will be assessed. Will it be assessed in the context of some multi-concept, your capacity? It might increase your risk in terms of assessing it.
Yes, it might be that.
But I'm quite interested to know what you're really thinking.
Well, what I'm really thinking is there's a number of different areas that we work in, right? With bats, with crown of thorns, or with plastic pollution, blah, blah, blah. So if we could write concept notes for all 3 or more different areas and put them in, and then would you be looked at as trying to implement them all, or would the assessors go, we like this one, so we suggest you do that one on the full proposal because that's more in line with what we want, and then don't worry about the other 3? Or I guess it's like hedging, which one is going to be more attractive to the assessors to get funding.
Yeah.
But we're not allowed to ask you for feedback on concept notes, I know that. So do you put in multiple concept notes and then you can choose which one?
We're quite open. We can, at this stage, we're quite open to have separate conversations with organization and what you're thinking. So we can dive into the details. So no, yes, we're quite open. Like I said, it's interesting. It'd be good to hear how organizations are already thinking of application. Be it a multiple, or will you be advised to do a call now? One thing we haven't mentioned is that the call opens now and it will reopen. Let me just say this. The small and very small will open, we are estimating it will open at least 4 times through the period. So you have your chance to apply now and then reapply after you do your first one, for the shorter ones. For the medium grants, because it is targeting 36 months, this call, after the successful applicant, we will then decide. We definitely will make another call for medium grants, so 2 calls for medium grants. The medium grants can be, the reason it's being divided to very small, so you can be flexible. If you're saying, oh, I'm not going to take the whole 3 years, I'll still ask for, let's just say 300,000, but I'll just implement it in 2 years. For example, in the second call, because you have to finish everything by 2024. We have to close it so that we can complete all the reporting. I hope that makes sense. So you have the flexibility, to just wait for different calls, or you want to put everything in for this call, which is what we can discuss. Is it okay? We leave it at that, and we are happy to have another specific call on it.
Yep, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. So our next question from Deborah. Deborah, if you can unmute yourself, please.
Well, thank you, Amelia. So I'm Deb from the Ministry of Forestry, and I'm wondering what subgrants are.
Subgrants, for example, subgrants is what you are giving another organization to implement. You will have a contract with that particular organization.
Okay.
You go
like
in later Fiji,
mm-hmm.
you say, we're Ministry of Forestry will do this bit, and this is what we will spend this fund on for our activities, and then this particular activity we will subgrant it to Nature Fiji in terms of awareness. So that's how subgrant will work.
Okay, kind of. Yeah, I think I understand.
So
where you might subcontract another organization,
yeah,
and things like that. Vinaka Tika.
Thank you, Deb. Can you have Faria? Can I ask you to unmute yourself?
Yeah, hi. Could you go to the slide that is on the relevance?
Relevance.
Relevance to the Kiwa initiative.
It has a list.
No, it was after summary of project goals, and then there was relevance to the Kiwa
in the
initiative.
concept note.
After that, one more.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
okay.
question 3, it's phrased as a simple yes and no question, but the way you explained it, we needed to explain it. I just wanted clarification. Is that a yes or no, or do we have to explain the partnership?
Explain why you're choosing that partner and what their roles are. Yeah, definitely. It needs to be an explanation.
You need an explanation for that? All right.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
that'd be good. Okay. Anything else, Amelia? Or
Yes, Wayne. Wayne would like to ask a question. So Wayne, please, if you can unmute yourself.
Good morning. This is Wayne from Palau. I'm with Hope Hatobe Organization for People and Environment. Just asking on the starting date for the projects, ideally after the successful, let's say a concept is successful, when do we anticipate disbursement and to start out with our projects?
very good question, Wayne. So, more of luck to you. So let us look at that. So November, you will be invited to put in your full proposal. You'll be given 2 months to put in your full proposal. So that takes you to December. In terms of starting, you are looking at us finalizing contracts by February, March 2022. In terms of actual implementation.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So, yeah, so when you're feeling that start and end date, please be thinking that anything, the estimation, we may need to add a bit there. So it's really the reality of your timing will be in 2022, first quarter. The process is you submit this concept, we review, as I mentioned, get back to you around November to submit the full proposal. We give it 2 months, November, December. We review in January, February, because of January being a low activity month. In February, that means we review and start the contracting and awarding your grant. So very good question, Wayne. So I would say everybody need to be thinking around April 2022 to be your starting points, to be a safe month.
Thank you.
So if everybody could just take note of that. That's a very good question. We'll include that in terms of this filling the date. Think about that your actual contracting, the process should be finalized by April.
Thank you, Tika. We have two more questions. We'll ask Deb if she can unmute herself.
Vinaka Emilia, Deb from Ministry of Forestry again. Just wondering how many training sessions can we look forward to? There's one at least next week and one or two.
Amelia, you want to answer that question?
Thank you, Deb. So we anticipate to have this weekly, and it will also depend on the requests from potential grantees or applicants. So we're hoping to run this as a weekly event every Thursday from 10 a.m. Fiji time to 12. And throughout the weeks, we will be having, as Etika has mentioned, we'll have different areas that we will cover concerning your application, concerning the application process mainly. So yes, so to answer your question, yes, we will have this weekly, depending on the request and what we feel needs some gaps to be filled, bridged concerning your application or any information that you would like to know more about regarding the Kiwa initiative grants for local projects, UNACA. Hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you very much.
So next question is from Seni Lolia. If you can just unmute yourself, please.
Yeah, thank you. Just a question to Etika and Amelia. I'm just looking at the slide on the project title, etc. I was just wondering, so for each organization, they can, how many, is there an eligible number of concept note that they can submit? Are we eligible to just one, or can we have more than one concept note to deliver over to you guys on the given dates? Is there a limit or not?
We haven't put any limits on
okay.
But we would be interested to maybe first have some discussion with you. You know,
okay.
For example, the question from Vanuatu, if you're thinking you want to put two, and what is your reason? Like I mentioned, you can apply when it opens again, or you want to put in two.
Okay.
You want to put in two straight away.
Yeah. So you have answered my question. So in response to that, for our program, we have both the terrestrial and the marine program. So they might have their own, ideas on things that they want to do. And, they may be interested maybe in a medium grant and a small grant, or very small grant, something as such. But yeah, I'll take you up on that, that you just mentioned, that there maybe has to be some early discussions before actually determining the number of concept note that we could provide or submit. So yeah, thank you for that, Etika.
Yes, the question there is you'll be looking at the threshold of the grants. The Kiwa initiative have this is the local projects component. There is another larger component, which is the regional technical grant, which exactly targets those that want to do more than the 400,000. So the regional one, they're still open. Those are the ones that go for 1.5 million. And and it's applied to SPC and SPREP. And most of a big organization would already have had the bigger discount. So this one is kind of the intention to really target the smaller envelopes of grant for local. So there is other funding under QA initiative that addresses the bigger, if you want to do a bigger concept. But yes, we will be interesting to have further discussion. And
I think one more question from Stefano. So, Stefano, if you can unmute yourself.
Naka, question regarding limitations or recommendations on the amount of characters or words to be used filling in the application or the concept, especially elements of the summaries of the goals and objectives and the log frame or the logical framework.
We have to get back to you on that, Johan, Stefan.
Okay, thank you.
What we'll do is we'll review it. We don't want to do too much limitation at this stage, but I know a lot of the donors calls for proposal limits it because it's concept. We can give you a guide so everyone have a good guide in terms of number of words.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, should we move on, Amelia?
Yes, Ritika.
I pass it to you then.
Okay, thank you. I will basically be just talking on the ESMS portion of the application concept note, the environmental and social management system. So, excuse me. While I put up my slide, can I just request if you can quickly attempt poll that, sorry, not this one. So I have a poll. Just would like a baseline of your the participants' familiarity with ESMS. So if you can just quickly attempt that poll while I put up my slide.
Sorry, Amelia, just while we are doing the poll, the question from Debbie on the Thursday sessions. If we would really appreciate if you could drop us a note on some particular topics that you think these Thursday sessions can cover or you want covered. That will guide us Thursday sessions. That's it.
Thank you, Etika. Grateful if everyone can attempt the poll that's available. It'll really help us as we go along and also in future workshops that we plan to roll out as well. Thank you. So the environmental and social management system, the requirements and guidance is what I will be sharing with you, talking to you about this morning. And you'll see on the screen that is the very simple screening questions in regards to this part of the portion of the concept note. This is basically what you will have to answer as you prepare and submit your concept note at this stage. The final details regarding the ESMS will be more stringent when it comes to your proposal submission. So this is a very simple screening questionnaire that you will need to attempt before you submit the concept note, just to get a fair idea of how well your project will align to the IUCN ESMS framework, because according to this project, you will all have to align your projects and your activities to the IUCN ESMS framework, which I will be talking to you about in the coming slides. So you will find this questionnaire at the very bottom part of your concept note form that is available for everyone. So what is the IUCN ESMS policy framework? Basically, it's a systematic procedure just to check if all the IUCN projects for potential adverse environmental and social impacts, mainly to ensure that negative impacts are avoided or minimized if possible, while positive impacts are stimulated. So again, the purpose of implementing this ESMS framework is to avoid, minimize, and mitigate any negative impacts arising from projects. That is funded by the Kiwa initiative grants. So basically what we will look at is the magnitude of the negative environmental and social impacts that will be likely generated by your activities. And also, according to the size of the grants awarded, this is where we will also review how stringent your alignment to the ESMS framework should be. This will also include the grantee's institutional capacity regarding ESMS. So probably a note for those that will be applying, those that will be awarded or successful in the concepts note stage, that you will also need to consider this part of your application in your proposal, because in the later part of the screening for ESMS, we will also need to see that you have the capacity or your institution or your organization has the capacity to continue to align to the ESMS policy throughout the implementation period. So that's basically the IUCN ESMS policy framework. It comprises of 8 principles based on rights-based approach, protecting the needs of vulnerable groups, gender equality and women empowerment, stakeholder engagement, free, prior and informed consent, accountability, precautionary principle, and precedence of the most stringent standards, as I've mentioned. And the more the funding you granted, the more stringent the standards will be. That's just something to note. And it's also based on 4 standards, which are involuntary resettlement and access restrictions, indigenous peoples, and biodiversity conservation and sustainable use of natural resources and cultural heritage. And just a note that the IUCN ESMS policy framework will be available for the use of the grantees, so that you can ensure that your activities align to our principles and our standards. So there will be 3 risk levels in which we will be screening and categorizing each activity or projects that will be submitted. And they are high risk, moderate risk, and low risk. So the screening will be done to determine which projects have the potential to generate ESMS risks and the nature and likely magnitude of these risks. So again, as I've mentioned earlier, for the concept stage level, where you are developing your concept note, it's pretty basic, just a yes or no questionnaire. But once you get into the stage of, if you have been invited to submit a proposal, then that will be more in detail. And also just to note, we will be recruiting an ESMS officer very soon, who will whose focus will be mainly on these ESMS related issues. So you can refer all your questions and for more information to our ESMS officer. So that's the risk levels. For low risk projects, these are projects that have minimal or no environmental or social impacts. They will most likely have more chances of receiving or passing this screening test. So that is just something to note. So, but for projects that have high risk, they will have no potential to be granted to proceed with the contracting. So here is the ESMS review response. As I've mentioned, that projects that are assessed as being of high ESMS risk will generally not proceed with contracting. Those with moderate, probably we will have require additional steps to be taken to understand the nature of the risk and mitigate ways to mitigate them. But for those with low ESMS risk, will generally require no further action to be taken and will be most likely proceed to contracting of the organization. So that's basically the overview of the ESMS requirements. Again, as I've mentioned, we will be recruiting an ESMS officer who can further elaborate on what I've just shared, but the policy framework, IUCN ESMS policy framework, will be made available, and this will also be provided on the web page. I believe we've shared the link on the chat box, but if you'd like the link the link to the web page, you can request and we can send them to you. But on the screen is just the Kiwa initiative main web page. So this is our website. So this is the general Kiwa initiative project. So that's the website that you can visit. But I've shared on the chat box the IUCN Kiwa initiative web page link. So that's basically the ESMS requirements and guidance. Opening the floor now for any questions, or if there's any other clarifications that you'd like to know, please feel free to ask your questions. If you can just raise your hand using the icons provided. Do you have any questions or?
Amelia,
Yep.
it's Sarwaya here.
Yes,
Can you please share the first slide because it was blurred?
okay,
A lot of
first slide, okay.
yeah.
This one?
Yes, that's the one. Okay, it's blurred. I'm not sure whether others can.
And also we have Seruaya, my colleague Seruaya, who will be happy to take any questions if you need clarifications on anything that's being presented. So Seru, can you see the slide?
No, it's still blurry.
It's still blurry. How about the next slide?
Yes, the next slide is good, but not the first one.
Okay, let me just try something else. Hold on. Okay. Okay, here it is. How about now? Sarah, are you able to see the screen now?
Yeah, the
It's
resolution
legible
is
now,
much
but
better
it's
now.
still a bit Yeah, it's still a little bit blurry though, but it's legible.
Okay, okay,
It must be easy enough to get this this
Okay.
information as well. Otherwise,
yeah. So this form is available on the web link that I've provided. Okay, need to increase okay, let me try that. How about now?
It's much better, Amelia, than the PPT that you were showing.
Okay,
It's much clearer and sharper, the text. Eh?
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. So does anyone have any questions regarding ESMS and the requirements? Serwa, if you can also stand by to. Okay. Thank you, Deborah. So this is available on your concept note. So this questionnaire you will have to complete as well before you submit your concept note. Now. Are there any questions? Yes, go ahead, Christina.
Just for the question where it says, will the project work in lands or territories traditionally owned, customarily owned or used or occupied by Indigenous people? Pretty much everywhere is in the Pacific. So I'm assuming that we just answer yes to that and then explain where we're going to do our project.
Yeah.
Because the Pacific's a bit different for the rest of the world and with those answers to those questions.
Yes, you're right. So yeah, just provide the details that and including any adverse impacts foreseen. So basically just provide an explanation on possibility of risks that will be involved. And I believe in one of Etika's earliest slides, and also I've mentioned as part of the principles of the policy, is that you need to get prior approval if you're working on traditionally owned territories. But if it is a land that you have leased and you have made agreements with landowners, that should be fine. But if it will require that you get prior consent from the traditional owners of the land, then you will need to provide details regarding that. I hope that's clear, Christina.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please go ahead, Deb.
So if you're working with landowners or resource owners, Indigenous, and it's their land, and we plan to partner with them, how can we express that? Or is because we won't have a lease with them, and there'd be like a project partners is what I was thinking.
I'm sure there will be an agreement available between your organization and the community.
Okay, like an
So
MOU?
that should suffice. Yeah, so that should suffice.
Okay, awesome.
Sirwai, if you'd like to add on to these responses, please feel free to do so.
Sorry, may I go again?
Yeah, sure.
So for the concept paper, what do we need? Would it be just an expression of interest from them to participate in the project? Or
from
what?
the communities or the landowners? Yeah.
Yes.
Basically, yeah, probably Sirwa, if you'd like to respond to that, if you'd like to just respond to this question by what documents or what evidence they need to provide to show that the landowners have provided consent or given consent for the use of their land. Oh, apologies. Sirwa is no longer with, oh yeah, Sirwa is here. Thank you, Sirwa.
Maybe if I can attempt the
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. At this stage, Deborah, you were just indicating. You just indicate that you're working with a particular community and explain it. There's no need to go and get letters.
Okay, so not yet.
Yeah, you're just saying, yes, we're working with this community. We have been working with them for the last 5 years on so and so. What type of consultation you have done with them, if any. If not, then it would be good that you mention this concept have not been consulted.
Okay.
Because remember, we are still doing concept. After that, when we are invited to the proposal, you might be, by then you would have done some preliminary consultation with you. And then that's when you will provide more detail. You can just mention that.
Okay. I was thinking to ask them to assist us on the development of our proposal itself and assessing the situation and such.
Yeah, so you should explain. So, yeah. Good that you explain those processes you have already.
Okay.
There's a question from Ben Solo. Is there a certain requirement, example, 50% participation or consent by female members, including disadvantaged members of communities with this framework? Etika, would you like to?
The answer is no, not at this stage. That come in when you're in the project, you will be reporting how you are applying your ESMS. So it will show in your reports. You will be asked to make sure you're reporting on your ESMS plan. The participation, for example, the one we are all doing is how many female and males attending your stakeholder meetings. Those type of, that's when you are at that stage. But no, it's not at this concept. And there's no percentage that you'll be required. You will, in terms of your project proposal, you will set your indicators. And that's how it will be tracked.
Thank you, Ben Solo. Thank you, Tika. Is there any other questions? So basically, this screening questionnaire is just is brief, does not require any any detailed documentation or reporting. That will be done once you at the proposal development stage. There any other questions? Does anyone have any other questions? Thank you, Etika. I think that's it from with the ASMS session. And I see that Semis is online now.
Yeah, Bula Milliam Bula Tikan Bula everyone.
Also, before I hand back the time to Etika, just a clarification. I believe during the awareness workshop last week, we had mentioned that the concept notes, actually the proposal will only be submitted by those applying for the small and medium grants. However, there has been some revision to that. And so now all those that will be applying for the grants, very small, and medium, will need to go through the two-step process, submitting a concept note. And if you are successful, then you will be invited to provide and prepare a proposal. So just to clarify that with everyone. If you're applying for a very small grant, then you will need to also, if successful, prepare and provide the proposal, a full proposal, before you will be awarded or contracted, if you're successful also for with your proposal. So just to clarify that with everyone, Vinaka. Thank you, Etika.
Thank you, Amelia. Now just to thank everyone for your time this morning, and wishing you all the best as you start working on your concepts. The sessions every Thursday, we want it to be really driven by you. So feel free to send questions to our email. So we'll tailor make these sessions so that you can. So it's really the session. These sessions are for to be guided by some of your key areas you want covered. So for next week, we are going to focus on the logical framework. We have one of our staff, Mr. Ken Kassam, who will come and do a more detailed presentation on logical framework. And thank you, Semisi, for joining us. And then we'll have Semisi and the finance team to go over the budget with you, and in some detail, and also help you answer some of your detailed questions. Again, thanks for the questions that came in today. So some actions to those is that we're going to target in terms of start dates to be thinking around April 2022 to integrate the actual time of processing proposals. And the question from, I think, Stefan, the limit of words. We don't want to lock you down too much, but we'll give you some guide on the number of words in different sections. Some calls for proposal, they just give you what is your file size. So we'll think about it and we'll put it up in the website. So please keep visiting our website. If you log on to the proposal document, it is titled the version of the 19th of June. So if you see a new version, it means it has included some text that have come from this session. So it's basically providing more detail. And then the discussions on the multi-projects. We will check that bit, and then we're going to put up a frequently asked question based on the questions that have been coming. And this may be one of the key questions that we will put up the answers to them. So with that, Amelia, I guess Amelia really will be the lead in this session. Amelia's Thursday virtual meeting. Again, thank you very much, and Amelia, and we'll keep informing you of next Thursday's session. Please stay safe and God bless. Pinaka.
Naka. Thank you, Tika. Just before you leave, there's another poll that's on your screen right now. If you can just attempt it quickly, that will be very helpful for us. We'll probably be sending out a questionnaire. We'll be sending out a questionnaire just so that we can get an idea of the areas that you'd like us to present during our Thursday capacity building workshops. So please expect an email to come from us very soon concerning that. So other than that, thank you again. So we have 97% who's voted. We have only 3% left to vote. But other than that, we're getting really good responses from the polls so far. Vinaka. Thank you, Tika.
Okay, bye everyone. Kapalebo.